I think I might be live, but I'm not sure. I'm confused again. Oh, still don't know where I see myself. And I can't find where I was last week when I saw myself. I'm going to wait and see if Jessie tells me that I'm live. I hope I'm live, because I'm supposed to be live. Oh, she says yes. Hi, everybody. Oh, I'm still being a learner right in front of you. If you're out there, this is my second YouTube live experience, and I'm still trying to figure out the technology here. Last week, I could see a panel that told me who was here, and then I could welcome you. I could see your names, and now this week I can't find it. But I know that some of you are out there, and welcome to the second YouTube live event to share little pieces of Onward with you, to celebrate this forthcoming book, and to start sharing some little tidbits from it. I really wish I could see who is out there, because I'd like to welcome you. Maybe it shows me here on my channel. Oh, well, I can't figure it out. But you know what, Jessie, I know you're there. So, if anybody asks questions, maybe you could tell me what they ask. And again, hi, everybody. I'm Elena. In case you don't know me, haven't met me, I hope that if you are joining us for the first time, you will get something from this that will be useful and helpful to you. I am going to share some pieces of Onward. And let me get this all ready for you. Just in case you don't know what this is about, this is my next book, baby, and it's supposed to be out in 2 weeks. I actually think that if you've pre-ordered it, then it will come sooner. And if you also don't know, it's got a fraternal twin here, the Onward workbook, which contains some 365 activities to help you cultivate your resilience. Let me change my screen again so I can see you. You can see me better. I couldn't figure out how to shrink this big logo here, but that's the logo for the Onward website. So tonight's topic is mindfulness as a tool for cultural competence. And this is one little slice of what's in this book. I want to tell you a little bit about how we get to this topic by sharing with you a graphic that I created with the help of a graphic designer. I didn't do the prettiness of it, to represent what this journey to resilience is all about. And that is reflected in this graphic here, which depicts resilience as the reservoir, that well within all of us that we draw from and fill. And the image that I use for this is that there are all of these paths that we can take to cultivate our resilience. And so the path, the journey of knowing yourself here, of understanding emotions, of telling empowering stories, building community, being here now, that's mindfulness. Taking care of yourself, focusing on the bright spots, cultivating compassion, being a learner, playing and creating, riding the waves of change, and celebrating and appreciating. Those are the 12 habits of emotionally resilient educators. And I'm realizing that like that huge logo is on my face. I'm here. I can see you. Oh, look, what if I do that? There. Okay, those, I'll change this in a moment. Those are the 12 paths, the 12 habits, the 12 chapters of Onward. And I also talked about dispositions last time. The dispositions are the terrain that we walk through. So there's perseverance, trust, purposefulness. So today we are exploring the path of being here now, which again, I'm realizing, there we go, it's hard to see when I've got that huge logo over there. Be here now is the mindfulness journey. So let me click back onto the thing where you see me. There you go. Now, what is mindfulness? I want to offer you a short definition, then I want to tell you a little story about why mindfulness in the broader context of resilience, and then get into the cultural competence piece. So mindfulness, the most simplistic definition is that it's the non-judgmental cultivation of moment-to-moment awareness. Non-judgmental cultivation of moment-to-moment awareness. Here's the definition that I use. So, a mental state in which you're focused, you don't judge what's happening in that moment. And so, as it says, you can do a lot of things mindfully. You can eat mindfully, walk mindfully, teach mindfully, coach mindfully, listen mindfully. That's the most generally used definition of mindfulness. Now, I thought I would read you a short segment of Onward. It's from the opening to that chapter, and it is basically why one of the reasons why I nudge people towards using mindfulness. It's a short story. It'll take me a minute or two. It was a week before Halloween, and there was plenty going on in my life as a first-year teacher. And then Gabriel came to school covered in welts and bruises, and I made my first call to Child Protective Services. In the meeting with his mother, the police officer threatened to remove her 4 children from the home unless she separated from her abusive husband. Where would his mother go? She was undocumented, she had no family in the area, and she only had sporadic work cleaning houses. I wondered how I could be a teacher and manage this kind of sadness. What could I do to help? My heart beat fast, my voice trembled, and I felt a general surge of anxiety. That night I couldn't sleep as my mind jumped around from Gabriel to lesson planning to the grades I needed to finish to the spilled bottles of paint in my classroom to the stack of unpaid bills I couldn't find the time for, and then back to Gabriel. How do teachers do this? I wondered. Around 5 a.m., after managing to get only a few minutes of sleep, I got up, grabbed a pillow off my couch, and sat down on the floor. I had dabbled in meditation for a few years by then, but it always felt so hard to sit still. I got bored quickly. I didn't see the point. But somehow, after a night of insomnia and anxiety, I went into autopilot mode, and whoever was in the driver's seat directed me to meditate. Meditation is not magic. I still got bored. But in that first year teaching, the days when I meditated before school were notably easier than those when I skipped my 20 minutes on the pillow. In the spring of that first year, I had to make another call to Child Protective Services for Gabriel. As I sat with his mother and the police officer that second time, I was much calmer. I felt incredibly sad, but I didn't feel frantic and unsettled. I wasn't wondering, how would I do this? I undertook one task at a time: the phone call, the meeting, the cleanup, the drive home. My mind was more often present than fluttering anxiously through the past and present and future. And so in this chapter, I'm going to try everything I can to convince you to sit down for a few minutes a day, ideally for about 20, and close your eyes and observe your breath. That is, yes, I'm going to ask you to meditate. And so I do try to make a convincing case for meditation in this chapter, because while you can practice mindfulness playing Legos or eating or teaching or walking or coaching, it is a state that requires practice, and sitting on a pillow and observing your breath is one of the most commonly used, most extensively used approaches to cultivating mindfulness. So that's the anecdote that opens up that chapter on mindfulness, and brings in to the conversation this idea of slowing down, cultivating awareness. Last week, if you were here, then I shared with you this cycle of an emotion, this graphic depicting what an emotion is, really. There's here a prompting event, and then there's how we interpret what happens, which results in our physical response, an urge to act, the action we take, and then the after effects. You'll be, oh, I'm sorry, I can see that it's being blocked there by that massive logo that I need to move. You'll be able to download this from the Onward, the book website in just a couple of weeks. Now, what mindfulness does is it makes this space right here in between the prompting event and the interpretation, it makes it bigger and bigger and bigger. When that space right there is smashed up together, tight, that's where we don't have the space to think about our response and to choose a response. Mindfulness sort of blasts that space open and allows us to have a lot more awareness of and decision-making about how we respond. So in that space there is also where unconscious bias lives. There's an event and we interpret it, and that interpretation emerges from our unconscious and sometimes from our unconscious bias. And this is where mindfulness as a tool to build cultural competence can be key. So mindfulness, let me define unconscious bias a little bit. Unconscious bias, the automatic thoughts and feelings that arise when we look at an image or see a person from another ethnicity or race. We can also have unconscious bias about any identity marker, but here I'm just going to focus on unconscious racial bias, which often operates below our level of consciousness, but which shapes our views and affects our behaviors. Now, the really good news is that researchers say that our prejudice, our unconscious bias, is not inevitable, and that actually we can rewire our minds to override our impulses to those who seem different from us. So in order to challenge our stereotypes and cultivate empathy and perspective taking, we need to be able to slow down our responses after we are take in information or data, or see somebody who's different than us, or see a child roll her eyes, which we may interpret through some unconscious bias. So it's going to take more than mindfulness in order for us to disrupt, interrupt systemic oppression, in order for us to create equitable schools. It's going to take more than meditation and mindfulness, and I want to acknowledge that, and also say that mindfulness is a key part of interrupting inequities, and it's also a great place to start. There's actually a lot of emerging research about why many of our attempts to do the kind of perhaps social justice work that many of us have been interested in or have done, why they haven't worked, and why attempts to reduce prejudice haven't worked. And they are around this aspect of, we haven't actually dug into our unconscious bias and rewired our brains. I recently saw, I think it was a TED Talk, and I didn't watch it. I want to go back and find it and watch it. But it was titled, "If You Have a Brain, You Have Bias." And I think I found it sort of a relief to acknowledge and accept that, and then to recognize that what we need to do is explore, is slow down the process. There's a very commonly offered example of unconscious bias, which you may be familiar with already, which is of a white woman walking down a street. I actually think it could be a woman of any ethnicity, because many women of color, as well as African American women, have internalized unconscious bias as well, and oppression about even folks within their own group. But the commonly cited example is a white woman walks down the street and she sees a black man walking towards her, and she clutches her purse, and she may cross the street to avoid him. She may not consciously feel afraid of him. She just automatically reacts. Unconscious bias. With a practice of mindfulness, with slowing down, what happens essentially, this same woman might see a black man walking towards her on the street and say to herself, the fear I'm experiencing now is not real or founded. It's the result of internalizing distorted messages about the danger of black men. My fear is dehumanizing to that man. It cuts me off from making meaningful connections with others. And right here, right now, I have no reason to be afraid. And perhaps this woman would walk past the man, make eye contact, maybe even smile, just as she would if she was passing another white woman or another man. And maybe after many such moments of mindfulness, as well as after learning about bias, her impulse to clutch her purse might subside or disappear. And this is, again, rooted in a lot of research that's coming out now about how mindfulness can be one tool to help us interrupt previously established associations. So let me stop there and invite you in the comment section to share what's coming up for you, whether that is a reaction, a question, a comment. And let me ask you to, let me invite you to take a moment to go ahead and do that. And I'm going to see if I can pull up those comments. And then I've got Jessie, who's my teammate, who is here, and she'll also send me some comments. But go ahead and take a moment to do that. All right, so I know that there's a a shout out from Anna, an achievement coach from New Jersey. And thank you for being here, Anna. Thank you for commenting. And it looks like she says she had to create a YouTube channel in order to comment. And so that is giving me a cue that perhaps if you don't have a YouTube channel, you can't comment. So maybe you are there, but you just can't comment. Thank you, Anna, for making that comment, for being here. As I shared in the beginning and last week, I am just learning how to do these YouTube live things and use this technology. And so I hope you'll stick with me and come back for more conversation. And I promise I'll figure this out at some point. So trying to decide if there's anything else I want to share with you this evening. I think I just want to close with, again, emphasizing the point that what mindfulness does is slows things down. And for so long now, I have felt like if we could just slow down in our schools and in our work and in our lives, we'd be in much healthier, happier, stronger places where we'd be more resilient, and we could still have tremendous urgency and commitment to change our schools and to make them into places where our kids thrive while also being slow and thoughtful and mindful. I think we could actually do both of them. And I hope that you will go deeper into this topic once Onward comes out, which is really, really soon. Next week, I'll be recording a video and posting it on YouTube for you to watch. I won't be live next week, but on May 1st, I hope you will join me for a virtual Onward release launch party at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. I am now back in the Pacific zone. If you joined me last week, I was on vacation in Kauai, but now I'm back in Oakland. I'm at home. Welcome to my house. Sitting at my dining room table, and I'll be here with my family in a couple of weeks to celebrate Onward's birth. And thank you for being here. And if you have any comments, questions, feel free to share those there. And have a wonderful rest of your evening, everybody. Bye.